Hello viewers and welcome to a brand new episode of Trashtalk on Heavy Gear 4th edition, a series where I talk about the various gears and vehicles you can pilot and drive around in the Heavy Gear universe. In this episode, I will be talking about the South Gears, Part 1. The South, or more specifically, the South Republic, stole the plan to the original Hunter Mark I some 300 years ago and created the Jager from the blueprint. Originally a knockoff Hunter, it soon takes up its own identity, and the Jager is what the South Republic used to finally conquer the rest of the southern states and created the Allied Southern Territories to consolidate its power. Compared to the North lineup, the South is more of a generalist army, in that they basically got more options available in a variety of roles than the North, whether that's cheap gears to fill up its conscript force, or high-performance gears for the elites in the AST, and funny enough, South is also one of the better force in heavy gear blitz where you can just make a full army list without a single gear in it and it will still work just fine. Their vehicles and striders are quite scary. Once again, let's start over from priority level 1, but before doing so, let's talk about what having the South as your starting sponsor will give you. First thing first, you can apply amphibious sealing for free without taking any spaces to any southern vehicles that don't have it, which lets you travel across water surface without being slowed down, as well as being able to stand on water at all. The priority level of all South military police gears and variants are also reduced by 1, which said a lot about the South I guess. Anyway, priority level 1 with South will give you Jager, stripped down Jager, Asp, Copperhead, and Rattlesnake. Yes, the South naming theme is snake, mostly. The Jager is basically the southern version of the Hunter and everything I said about the Hunter applies to it. It just works as the most basic trooper gear possible and can do just about anything. The main difference between the two is that the Jager has a light frag grenade instead of a Panzerfaust, which is basically a gigantic anti-personnel grenades that can be lobbed indirectly over obstacle. It deals 3 damage, which honestly isn't much, but it has the frag trait which gives another 2d6 dice roll when hitting things in its optimal range, plus another when rolling against swarm unit, which is anything consisted of multiple small units, whether that's infantry or wild animals, so that 3 base damage can grow into something much bigger easily with that many dices. An infantry squad within its blast radius will be deleted. That said, you might notice that the Jager variant list is way shorter than that of a Hunter. That's because the AST can actually afford new shit, which hilariously enough give the South even more gears in its list than the North. However, the AST does have a multinational conscript force called Militia which has less priority when it comes to getting new gears, so they are probably the one that will get stuck with the Jager the most. Anyway, let's take a look at what's interesting with the Jager's variant. Due to the vast jungle and water network in the South, at least when compared to the North, it's not a surprise that there's the Flam Jager variant which has a medium flamer that can ignore cover, and the Wassen Jager which can actually travel underwater. The flamer is a devastating weapon at close range. Spray means that it can just ignore any cover when firing, a common thing to be found in jungle, and fire doesn't just deal damage right through armor, it might also increase over time, and people generally tends to panic when they are on fire. However, compared to AP weapon, it's not as reliable in dealing through armor damage, and if the target is fireproof, you might as well be firing a water gun. And submersible is exactly what it sounds like, which also provides the Wassen Jager with amphibious sealing and life support, letting this Jager be capable of traveling underwater. However, there's a difference between walking at the bottom of a lake and actually swimming, which is where the aquatic secondary motive system comes in. This lets the Wassen Jager be capable of traveling underwater at a decent phase, though on land, it might be slower due to a lack of wheels. Also, since both Wassen Jager have life support system from submersible trait, the Wassen Jager are technically capable of functioning in space, just don't get any hull breaches. The stripped down Jager is basically a near carbon copy of the stripped down Hunter, even more so than their original counterparts. The base variant is practically the same with the same weapon set even, but the main difference lies with their variant, as the stripped down Hunter often packs a bigger punch, while the South uses the stripped down Jager as cheap units and scouts more. Though for some reasons, there's a SD Jager variant armed with light pulse laser of all things, that's certainly some firepower. Asp, oh boy, talk about trying to get a conscript force on the cheaper side. Compared to the Jager, the Asp has average speed, armor, and is only slightly more on the fragile side. However, in terms of firepower, Asp barely got anything. This thing is designed as a low-cost garrison gear and it showed. It's really good at dealing against infantry, or just people on foot, but against actual combat gear, its armor might lets it take a beating before reinforcement arrive. There's variants of it packing light autocannon or light Panzerfaust, which does make it more dangerous, but not much so than a Jager. Its only good point really, is that you don't need to maintain it often. The Copperhead has less armor than a Jaeger for better pilot control and Brawler 1 trait, which is good because this thing is designed to get close and cut people with its knife. It's not much, but you can definitely keep an enemy busy with this thing by being right in front of them. Other than that, the Copperhead has about as much firepower as the Jaeger. It's adequate. Finally, the Rattlesnake is literally just made around the fact that it's the cheapest medium rocket pack carrier in the whole Terra Nova. It's the only thing in this book that lets you have MRP at priority level 1, and the only thing it has sacrificed is having less armor. Devastating since a 8 damage hit with AP1 will affect most things, but you probably don't want to get hit in return. Moving on to priority level 2, there's Basilisk, Dart Jaeger, and Street Viper. Basilisk is just a Jaeger that's slightly faster and have recon sensor integrated in every one of its variants, letting it be slightly better at forward observing targets without sacrificing its armor for it like most e-warfare platform do, and also, if you are fighting in a jungle, you kinda want a better sensor than your opponent to get a first glimpse on them before they do. That could be very useful. Dart Jaeger is another Jaeger but way faster with 5 armor that also has integrated early warning system, comm suite, and ECCM suite, making this very speedy and survivable gear perfect for either commander or just normal pilot that don't want to get hacked. Also has a variant that carried a medium field mortar around, so a squad consisted solely of Dart Jaeger could get fire support too. And the Street Viper is, finally, not a Jaeger, but a speedy brawler gear with 5 armor, early warning system, and ram plate. Somewhat decent at close quarter combat, though all its variants lacked rocket pack for a big punch, and none packs a standard autocannon either. One has rifle for sniping, one has anti-air autocannon to bring down VTOL, and one has medium frag cannon because it is designed for the police works. Good if you want to keep collateral damage down to a minimum, or at least trying to. Onward to priority level 3, there's Anomalies, Blackadder, Salamander, and Sidewinder. The Anomalies is an early South E-warfare gear updated for modern warfare. Think of it as the North's Weasel but on budget and still be fairly capable. It's decently fast, can dodge with early warning system and good piloting, and can actually shoot things unlike most specialized E-warfare platform, which is very helpful because it has a light rifle, add in the elite sensor plus a wide variety of E-warfare systems, and you got a reliable common E-warfare platform. Which is very funny because the Anomalies is anything but reliable in lore. It also has comm suite, making it a good commander ride too, plus extended fuel tanks if fuel range ever mattered, and an upgrade that gives it a bigger melee and climbing gear to get over obstacle with ease. The Blackadder is a gear all about survivability, not in terms of having slabs of armor but having both field armor which reduces all incoming damage by 1 to a minimum of 1, and reinforced cockpit to protect the crew from most harm. Other than that, it's basically a slightly tougher Jaeger, just with medium rocket pod and lacking frag grenades. There's also an upgrade to give it climbing gear too. You will see this dynamic common in the southern gear list. There's cheap gear for conscript to pilot and die in, and there's the actual good one with good performance and is also trying to keep the pilot alive. The Salamander is a speedy gear with 5 armor and early warning system that's designed to get on enemy's flank with its speed and start shooting with its main medium autocannon and whatever underslung you get, or a big heavy rifle that can punch really hard with 8 damage. Your only side weapon is a light chain blade, with integrated brawler trait so you can fight decently in melee with it. It looks like it has no anti-infantry capability, but it's all covered by the underslung weapons except for the sniper variant. You can also upgrade it with climbing gear, making it one of the rare few climbing gears with rifle to snipe well with it. I know I said in the North episodes that North has a lot of climbing gear equipped gears due to the mountainous terrain, but it does seems that South has even more of them around than the North. Finally, the Sidewinder is basically the Tiger equivalent for the South, except for the addition of reinforced cockpit for better crew protection and medical lab kit to diagnose injury, also including an integrated first aid kit so this gear will really take care of you. Plus you can swap out the rocket pack for a light guided mortar if your team requires some guided fire support. Some variants even has backup SMG. That's a lot of guns. At priority level 4, you could get Cobra, Desert Viper, Diamondback, Iguana, Longbow Jaeger, Para Jaeger, and Python. The Cobra is basically the face of fire support gear in the South. It's slow but well armored with 8 armor, and usually carried a wide variety of indirect weaponry along with quick response system too. Unlike the Grizzly, you can see that there's not a single linked MRP here. Most Cobra variants instead have options for you to utilize for different situation. Technically, this thing is a PL5 unit for the most part. It only has one PL4 variant, and as you can see, you can't exactly call this a fire support variant. This is what most people will see the Cobra as instead: one heavy AC, stabby backup knife, one medium rocket pod, and then medium artillery rocket plus light guided mortar for a good mix of indirect options, and a machine gun. Most variants are very good at what they are specialized at, most notably the Bushmaster Cobra, which has heavy rotary to rip things apart alongside a light field gun because someone decided to figure out how much big gun you can put in a heavy gear, as well as the Artillery Cobra with counter battery system that lets you immediately mortar someone back if your team ever get attacked indirectly, and also 3 military police variants because of course. The Cobra can also be upgraded with satellite uplink for commander with Razor Fang upgrade, and also the Brahmin upgrade that adds an ECM and ECCM capability too, just to give the Cobra E-warfare capability. That's terrifying, but you need to upgrade the sensor yourself for more range. The Desert Viper is a gear with no wheel and only has speed 5. This thing is kinda slow, but it's also made to be as rugged as possible in term of not having to maintain this thing for more than a week. It's pretty tough with 7 armor and 8 hull integrity too, and it does pack medium class firepower for the most part, so it's quite well armed too. Mainly, it is designed to be armed with a medium grenade launcher. Grenade launcher in Heavy Gear 4E is unique in how it works. You have 2 choices of grenade types, usually anti-vehicle and frag, and you can just fire whichever you want as the situation see fits, at far longer range than you could throw a grenade at, and also has burst 1, so you can actually blast 2 targets with grenades at once or just 1 with more. Best of all is that grenade launcher can reload no matter what grenade type you have chosen, so you can just ignore the limited ammo trait completely, and as you go up in priority level, you can unlock crazier grenade types too, so having a grenade launcher means you have a lot of tactical flexibility. Also again, the Desert Viper can be upgraded with climbing gear, and also has amphibia ceiling upgrade, not useful to players that choose South as their starting sponsor, but otherwise, to player or enemy, this will be useful when you want to cross river. Also, I'm really not sure how this works with the Desert Viper physically. This thing has no wheel, so does it just walk on water surface like a Jesus Viper or actually just waddle over? That's up to you to figure out, I guess. Diamondback is also another gear built for survivability, this time with both field armor and early warning system with easy pilot control, so this thing can really take hits with 7 armor. Its firepower is quite decent too for this priority level, though it has medium anti-personnel rocket pack instead of the normal rocket pack, which can also be upgraded to artillery rocket to bombard the heck out of things, can also be thrown out of an aircraft. Iguana is the southern counterpart of the cheetah, and it's somehow even more ridiculous. Why does this thing has +2 E-warfare stat? That's insane. There's even one with +3 and also has stealth. This shit is nuts, and also it has like all the variants under the sun along with 2 military police variants. Some of which are, interestingly, not designed for E-warfare at all, but still keep the +2 E-warfare stat around because all Iguana has integrated comm suite and commander would love to have clear channel with it, and also has extended fuel tank, so it just feels like someone took a look at common E-warfare platforms used by the North and decided to slap them together and somehow further improve it. At least it's slightly slower at speed 8, I guess. There's also one interesting variant here called the Urban Rescue Iguana, which has a flamer. This is probably an oddity variant that is converted from the 2nd edition book where flamer could use alternative ammunition like fire foam or something, but now it just looks like, what exactly are you trying to rescue? Longbow Jager is a rare Jaeger variant, technically not made for commander but is still very useful to one, as one can use it to snipe or blow up enemies and order troopers around at a distance too. 2 variants even have airborne deployment rig and has even more indirect capability. However, the rare trait does make it harder to be repaired on field without a repair array. Try not to take any big hit. The Para Jaeger is a Jaeger that can be thrown out of an aircraft. It's basically southern version of Para Hunter, but with less indirect firepower and more E-warfare protection with its variants, also lacking low maintenance. And finally, Python is an obsolete heavy fire support gear that's technically not in use by the South anymore. You can see this by the fact that it only has 1 variant. In fact, there's probably more Badlanders using these things around than the South, but that doesn't stop it from being actually good. Compared to the Cobra, it's slightly more fragile, but it has basically the same firepower as its base variant, and is also easy to repair and maintain on top of that, so that can be attractive to players far away from field bases at a time. Also at priority level 4, you unlock access to the Barnaby, which is the AST gear transport that can actually carry up to 6 gears instead of 4 for the North's Behemoth, but also that's probably why the Behemoth can be obtained earlier than the Barnaby, and also the Bacchus, the heavy air transport for the AST that can carry either 200 infantry, 12 gears, or 4 vehicles. That's a lot of party loads. Why you can unlock the Bacchus first before the Whalfish, which carry less people, is anybody's guess, but then again, the AST really loves their massive conscript army, so I suppose it makes sense that they have more heavy transport around. There's also the Samson, which has 3 variants: infantry transport, supply carrier, and vehicle transport, but can only carry 2 vehicles with less armor than 8, since that basically only includes the Cayman, which is an IFV that weighs 14 tons, along with some smaller rides. I think it's perfectly possible to use the Samson to transport 2 gears each. I just think this is cool. I love the idea of having a whole-ass helicopter or aircraft just to carry 1 or 2 mechs around as a dedicated ride that you might be able to shoot from. And that's all for this episode. In the next one, you will see some chicken walkers around. Anyway, that's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe and click that notification bell button. If you want to see the videos early as well as further support my channel, you can join in my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.